All right, everybody, we are back to talk some fight news and all kinds of good combat sports stuff. Chevy, tell people what we got coming up.
All right. May 4th, UFC 285, the return of John Jones for the heavyweight title versus Cyril Gane. And then March 11th, UFC Fight Night, Jan versus Dvalishvili for that's an excellent bantamweight matchup. And then March 18th, we're on to UFC 286, Edwards versus Usman 3 for the welterweight belt.
Wild. Wow, I can't believe that Jones and Gane fight's coming up so close.
I know. Feels like we've been waiting for John Jones to fight for, it's been what, like 3 years?
Yeah. For heavyweight.
Something like that.
Oh, man, it's ridiculous. All right, let's actually, we were talking about news, but let's talk about, since I did not see last week's card, why don't we talk about that real quick, just because I don't have a lot to really go on. We want to talk about the main event. Is there other stuff you want to talk about last week's card?
First of all, one of the most boring cards.
Yeah.
It was a terrible, terrible card. Bunch of decisions. And then I just want to, I don't want to be shitty, but I feel like we need to highlight the William Knight performance. You said you didn't see the card, but I'm sure you've heard about
so many
it.
bad stuff about it, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to go out of my way to see this.
Yeah, he just stood there. I think he threw like 7 total strikes or something like that, and he just got leg kicked to death, like 50 leg kicks or something. It was not good from Marcin because he should have finished him for sure. And obviously, William Knight said this on his Instagram afterwards, which he was getting death threats from fans or whatever,
Wow.
which we'll talk about later. But fans better learn to control themselves before, the internet is a safe place or whatever, but should be careful in person. But just outrageous to give the man death threats. Like, have you ever been in a cage and fought another grown man in your underwear? Like, maybe you would freeze up too. So he just didn't have an answer for those leg kicks, and it was tough to watch. I believe he got cut. Yeah. So hopefully he goes on to do something better in PFL or Bellator or something, can get his way back, because that was an embarrassing performance for him for sure. But I mean, this card was all about the main event, which turned out to be great. Shocking in many ways, but great. We talked at the beginning of the year or the end of last year about who we thought were going to be our fighters of the year. I said Erin Blanchfield as my female fighter of the year. And even though I didn't pick her to win this fight because I thought it was a tough matchup, she put on a dominant performance against incredibly tough Jessica Andrade.
Yeah. I'm trying to think now. Like, I mean, for me, like, this has got to be a clear-cut path to the title. I believe Shevchenko does have a championship fight coming up, but barring a huge upset, like I would think Blanchfield, I mean, despite early in her career, like, she's got to be the one that's got the shot coming up, right?
Right. She made the call out for the belt, which I think she deserved. And also, I mean, Valentina's basically cleaned out the division. People want to see new blood to give her a test. I think this is the next logical step for the division as well. So I think she's going to get an opportunity. And I said maybe it might be a couple of years before she's champ, but if she puts in a performance like that, like she did against Andrade, she could beat Valentina, especially if we see the Valentina that fought Santos last time. Maybe she's getting a little bit complacent, like Nunes was at bantamweight. Blanchfield might be the one to catch her.
Yeah, I mean, the timing of this is definitely interesting. She definitely seems like she's on the way up. And like we said, Shevchenko, based off her last fight, maybe getting a little complacent. So I almost wish this was the fight we had coming up next. I think it's the most interesting fight right now in that division.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's talk about some fight news.
Yeah, so let's do all the fight announcements we want to talk about. So there's a few that we're gonna go over, but let's start with a heavyweight matchup: Curtis Blades versus Sergey Pavlovich. That'll be headlining an April Fight Night card.
Blades, this is tough as they come. Awesome wrestler, but this is a really tough matchup for him. Almost like you wonder, like I always think Blades gets the most toughest possible matchup because he's just not a fan-friendly fighter sometimes.
I don't think the UFC wants him to succeed because of his
not
style.
Always fan-friendly in his style, but I mean, if you look at it, he does have some finishes. And
look at Alistair Overeem.
Junior Dos Santos. You know, I mean, he can get it done. It's just that Blades can also be that guy that if he's going to dominate you wrestling wise, he'll do that too. Like he'll take the safe route if he can. And I think as much as he's had some finishes, he's had some boring fights as well. And that's why the UFC just isn't a big fan of him. But
you say that, but the UFC is a huge fan of Khabib and his similar style. I would argue Curtis has better striking than Khabib did.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, which would be the fan favorite, you know, art of mixed martial arts. But, you know, I do feel like he just gets a bad rap. I agree with you. Bad matchup for him.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, we'll see. Tough to pick a winner in that one right away, too.
Yeah, they give him, you know, his losses are to the super powerful punchers, the Ngannous, the Derek Lewis's, you know, Pavlovich is in that talk too. So very tough matchup. If he wins this one, I think you got to stop denying the guy a title shot. I don't care if Stipe comes back at this point or whatever to fight, you know, the winner of Gane and Jones. I think if Curtis Blades wins, give him a shot.
Absolutely. And I mean, especially if John Jones ends up being your champ too, I think you have so many interesting matchups there too.
Mm-hmm.
And Blades is a tough matchup for Jones, probably.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, that would be great wrestling match between them, basically. So, all right, let's move on to another fight announcement. We're just going to go over quick: Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill. That's scheduled for a May Fight Night, so that's an excellent matchup.
Yeah, I think Dern. She's gotten a lot better as time has gone on. Like she was always talented, but I think she's really becoming a complete fighter. I don't know. I think this is very evenly matched booking. Like I like this fight a lot. Maybe I lean towards Dern a little bit. I think she's more of a finisher, but Hill's so good all around and has had a lot of fights that should have gone her way. So it's kind of tough to pick.
Yeah, off the top of my head, having just found out about this today, I would lean towards Dern as well for the reason you said. She's a finisher. She's really improving and learning to mix the stand-up and the grappling in together. So, you know, once she completes that, she'll be a real force in the division, I think. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, speaking of guys that should have had a title shot a long time ago, Dariush versus Oliveira is trying to be scheduled on UFC 288. How do you see that one going?
Well, this is a great fight. This is a fight that should be made. Dariush is so good, but other than Islam Makhachev, like Charles Oliveira has been the man. And as much as I like Dariush, I like Oliveira too, but Dariush hasn't had his moment yet. So I kind of lean towards wanting him to get his moment with my heart. It's really hard for me to pick against Charles Oliveira. I would lean towards Charles Oliveira, but should be a hell of a fight. Two of literally the best in the world. I think we've talked about before. Dustin Poirier, I think, is probably next in line for a title shot. He's got the name. He's got the wins. But if you weren't going to go with Poirier and you were going to wait a bit, the winner of this fight is definitely probably the one.
Yeah, I agree with you about that. What I do disagree is I think I'm slightly leaning towards Dariush to get the win. I'm just not sure where Charles is at in his headspace. So this will be a good test to see where he's at, if he's still really hungry or if that was his one run to the belt or whatever. I don't think it necessarily is, but I know that Dariush is a monster, and he definitely is hungry for his shot at the belt. So great matchup. I think Dariush is one of the few people that can match up with Charles's jiu-jitsu, and they have similar striking styles too. So
I guess we can throw this fight in here real quick too. We did not talk about this at all, but it's a fight. It's coming up. Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury this weekend. Randy out asking us. You got a prediction?
Yeah, I think Jake Paul's going to knock out Tommy Fury. I think it's an 8-round fight. I don't think Tommy Fury's ever gone like past 4 or 5 rounds. And the combined record of his opponents is like 12 and 150. That would be 150 losses for his like 8 opponents or 10 opponents or something. Jake Paul has shown that he has power. He went 8 rounds with Anderson Silva. Yeah. So I don't think Tommy Fury could go 8 rounds with Anderson Silva. So I'm going to pick Jake Paul. I'm going to say knockout in round 4.
Okay. Interesting. I'm not really disputing that. When you give the record too of all of Tommy Fury's opponents and stuff too. Anderson Silva is the real interesting one in this when you mentioned Jake Paul's victory, because Anderson has gotten wins over legit boxers and stuff too. Although, there was some question about how well those boxers showed up, like
Chavez Jr., yeah.
Right, yeah, and what kind of shape he was in. So it'll be interesting to see. People are always improving, obviously, too. I'd imagine the Fury camp, like, they have got to be – they don't want to lose this, right? Like, they're got to be, like, putting this kid.
No, they're going to disown Tommy if he loses.
So I'll say this is a very interesting fight. I don't know, but I'll go with you. I'll go with the Jake Paul train still. I'll say this goes a little later. I'll say he knocks him out, though, still. I'll go round 7.
Yeah, interesting fight. I said after that Ben Askren Jake Paul fight that I was never going to buy a Jake Paul fight ever again. But I think a lot of that was the fact that it was on Triller and it was mostly a concert of rappers I've never heard of before.
Right.
But this one actually has me somewhat interested in. I probably still won't buy it, but I am interested in this fight.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I don't recognize some of the names on this boxing, but I mean, me and you aren't exactly boxing hardcores, So interesting enough. But it is interesting. I'm interested in this fight. Somebody wants to send me a link. I'll
exactly. Yeah. All right, let's move on to a fight I'm definitely way more interested in. That is, they're trying to put together also for 288 is Henry Cejudo versus Aljamain Sterling for the bantamweight title.
This is an interesting fight because at the end of the day, too, we don't know what kind of shape Henry Cejudo is going to be in when he gets here.
He wasn't old when he announced his retirement, for sure, but a lot of years of very heavy competition in Olympic level wrestling. So it wears on your body.
And just time away from a constantly evolving sport, especially in these lighter weight classes. It's interesting. And Cejudo's a guy that's been walking around very big. I want to say someone was talking about he was walking around at 175 maybe.
That's what Aljo walks around at though as well. Okay. He's huge. Aljo is huge for the weight division.
Okay, so I don't think, so then maybe that won't be a big deal. I don't know what Cejudo was walking around before, though. That would be the question.
Yeah, I don't think he's making flyweight anytime soon. But
so this will be interesting. But I hope we get the best Henry Cejudo that shows up because that'll make a really interesting fight. But based on the fact that Aljo is just out there still doing it constantly, I'll go with Aljamain because right now he's the man. And the performance he put on the last time against Jan, and then what he did to Dillashaw. Dillashaw, obviously, there was an injury. But still, just the way Sterling's been looking, he's the man. Until I see otherwise, I'll be going with him.
Yeah, you mentioned Cejudo's time away, but he has been coaching. I mean, look what he's done with Weili Zhang. He's still in the game. He's been working with Mighty Mouse a lot, but obviously that's not the same as competing. I think he's very cerebral. He's very good at game planning, but I think that Aljo is one of the toughest people to game plan for because he is so unorthodox, especially in his striking, and in his grappling too. I just think he's very tough to game plan for, and for that to be Henry's first fight back in 2 or 3 years, that's very tough to come back to. So I'm leaning towards Aljo as well. I like both guys a lot, so I'd be fine with either outcome. But I am excited for that fight for sure.
Absolutely.
So move on from our fight announcements. I just saw this today. I haven't really read too much about it, so we'll just get first impressions. But California is proposing a bill to create a pension program for retired MMA fighters.
I mean, that's awesome. There's nothing really bad you can really say about this. I mean, it's a sport that really needs something to protect these fighters.
Absolutely.
Boxing has the Ali Act. MMA needs something.
Yeah, I really think because the sport is so young, the fighters are really taking advantage of, especially when it comes to their health care. Like, the UFC will cover injuries that happen during a fight, but I mean, you're training much more often than you're actually fighting, and injuries in training happen way more often because you're tired all the time when you're training. That's when you get injuries or accidents happen or whatever. And the UFC doesn't cover that generally. I won't say that Dana's never covered an injury or whatever, but excuse me, but generally they don't cover anything. So, and you see a lot of these guys when they retire, they just can't, when they should retire, they just can't retire. I mean, look at Diego Sanchez. We didn't really talk about it, but he was in the Bare Knuckle FC, which he should have been done fighting like years ago. But he's in Bare Knuckle FC, and he got pieced up by Trout, and then now he's trying to sue him and saying he was cheating. Like, he's got CTE written all over him. He got taken by that Joshua guy, captured by that cult leader Joshua guy.
Yeah.
These guys need to have some option to get out of the fight game. They can't be in there for that long. It's too taxing on their brains, especially. So I think this is a good idea. I'll have to read more about it to see exactly how it's going to work and who it covers and what it's going to cover and how much money these guys are going to get, guys and gals. But I think it's a move in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, good to see.
All right. So one last piece of news, a little bit of drama happening. A fan, quote unquote, a fan gets slapped by Dustin Poirier at a Mardi Gras parade earlier this week. What do you make
he had
of that?
A sign up that said, "Dustin, your wife's in my DMs." Dustin kind of called him over here, and it looked like
he's riding in a truck in a parade with his wife and his daughter, by the way.
Right. It was that's a dumb thing. I was Dustin. I would have avoided the guy, but like as a fan too, like I don't know what, or I don't want to call him a fan. It's just a dude. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? This was like not a good idea. I don't know if you're just a McGregor fan or what you were thinking, but I'll
tell you what he was thinking. He wanted some likes on his Instagram or whatever. He made a sign and had somebody film it. The guy's in his 50s. He has a gray beard or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, you're spending too much time on the internet to think that you can, talk to someone like that. Any person, let alone a cage fighter.
Right.
Like, you're lucky you got away with a little slap.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, not bright. Don't antagonize cage fighters.
Yeah. Dustin probably, should have just let it go or whatever. But I mean, I think the guy got away lucky. He didn't catch a real ass whooping because Dustin was trying to get out of the Jeep and his wife was holding him in there and everything. Good for him.
Dustin. He doesn't need to do that, but I get it. I get that somebody's insulting, your wife and everything right there, and you're right there. So,
right. I get that too. Like, if I was in Dustin's, shoes or whatever, like, say something about me, like, don't go at my wife. Yeah, that would trigger me as well. So
yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Fuck.
We're not cage fighters.
Yeah, I know. Fuck these dumb fans. Fuck these dumb fans. All right, let's we talked about last week's card. It was terrible. A lot of decisions. Let's get into this upcoming week's card, which when we're going over fights, I don't think it's going to be too much better. I don't see it being a lot better, but I just want to point out a couple fighters on the prelims that I'm looking forward to watching. Jordan Levitt, who was the one that said he was going to twerk on Paddy Pimblett, who obviously got teabagged or whatever, and yes. Ode Osborne and Charles Johnson, two great fighters, two good strikers. They're actually fighting each other. So there's a couple good prelims to keep an eye out for. But let's get into the main card. All right. Mike Malott versus Yohan Lainese.
All right. Yohan, White Lion, is 9-1, 6 KOs, 3 decisions. And Mike Proper Malott is 8-1-1, 4 KOs, 4 subs. I just like both their nicknames. And he's got 4 wins in a row. It's great matchmaking right here. Looking at the very similar records. It really... it's kind of hard to decide like who's going to win this one. They're both young and they both are, like I said, very even. I like Malott. I like the fact that this guy's got 4 KOs and 4 subs and he's a finisher. So I'm leaning towards him. I'm going to say he gets it done in round 1. I think they'll be going balls to the wall and I think he gets a sub.
This is funny. Just so the fans know, Dave and I don't discuss like what we think is going to happen in these fights ahead of time. That basically mirrors exactly what I was thinking. I don't know very much about either one of these guys, right. But Mike seems to be the more well-rounded fighter based off his record, as you said. Seems to be a finisher, and I said I think he gets it done round 1 sub. So we agree.
Yeah. All right.
We'll get into the next fight, which I am excited for this. Tatiana Suarez, who's been out for a long, long time with serious back problems and neck problems, I think, versus Montana De La Rosa.
Montana De La Rosa, she is 12-7-1, 1 KO, 8 subs, 3 decisions. But that record, I mean, she's fought some of the best already. And this is a great fight back for Suarez, who's undefeated. She's 8-0, 2 KOs, 3 subs, 3 decisions. But like you said, due to injury, she hasn't fought since 2019. Mm-hmm. So this is a great fight for her back.
I think there was a big gap before that as well. I'm not sure, but I know she has not fought recently for a long time.
Last fight was 2019. Before that, she had 1 fight in 2018, 2 fights in 2018.
Oh, okay.
So she hasn't been like a terrible. She wasn't a terrible. She was all right. She wasn't like doing the Cowboy Cerrone thing or anything. Oh, yeah. But she had wins over. I mean, she has wins over Carla Esparza, Alexa Grasso, Nina Nunes. So I mean, yeah, Suarez was on her way definitely, and she's another one. We talked about Blanchfield and Shevchenko. Like, she could be in this talk, but she's been injured, so we don't know what to expect. Based off of Suarez's past success, I'm going to give her the victory. But De La Rosa, like I said, is a stiff test. She's fought everybody, and she's going to want this victory bad. But I think Suarez will do enough to get it. I'll say it's a decision because I think she's going to have some ring rust to get off. And I think it'll be a competitive fight, but I think Suarez will get it done by decision. And this is a welcome back fight.
Yeah, again, we agree pretty much 100%. I think this is kind of a warm-up fight for Tatiana. If she's healthy, she should dominate the fight. But like you said, I think she'll be a little bit rusty, so we get a decision. Plus, De La Rosa, a bit of a submission specialist, so Tatiana's gonna mind her P's and Q's when she's wrestling, which would be her strong suit. So I think we get a decision. But I bet that she lays on top of her a lot in this fight. I am looking forward to that one, though. I hope Tatiana is everything that she looked like she was going to be. So,
yeah, absolutely.
All right, move on. Augusto Sakai versus Don'Tale Mayes.
Augusto Sakai, 15-5-1, 11 KOs, 4 decisions. He's a finisher, but he's lost 4 in a row. So his back is going to be up against a wall here. Don'Tale Mayes is 9-4-1, 5 KOs, 2 subs, 2 decisions. He's won 2 out of his last 3. I don't think and the fact that he's won 2 out of his last 3, and the fact that this guy's got 2 subs to go with those 5 KOs, I don't know. Augusto really needs his victory. I don't think he's going to get it. I think Don'Tale Mayes will get this. Will it be I'd like to say it's going to be a finish, and it'll be exciting. I think it will be a finish because I think Augusto is going to really push the action. Mm-hmm. So, but I'll say because of that, he may be a little careless, and he'll get caught. I think maybe on the ground with a submission. I'll go Don Mayes round 2 sub.
Yeah, so like you said, Sakai's lost 4 in a row, and all of those were by TKO or KO. So I think Don'Tale's going to make it 5 and send him on his way out of the UFC. Yeah. So I'm going to say round 2 KO for Mayes.
Okay.
All right. Andre Muniz versus Brendan Allen. Very excited for this fight. 2 kind of under the radar guys, but very, very dangerous fighters.
Yeah, absolutely. Brendan Allen, 20-5, 5 KOs, 11 submissions, 4 decisions, and he's won 5 out of his last 6. Those submissions, it's very interesting. Andre Muniz, though, 23-4, 4 KOs, 15 subs, and 4 decisions. He's on a 9-fight win streak. He's 5-0 in the UFC, and he's coming off of wins over guys like Aaron Anders, Jacare Souza, and Uriah Hall, who he basically retired. That's incredible. It's incredible because Andre has gone off the radar so much, but when you look at some of those victories he's put together, it's impressive. This should be a really interesting fight. He's got 15 subs. Allen's got 9 or 11. Excuse me. This could definitely be an interesting ground fight as well. I'm going to say Muniz. I'll say he gets the sub, and I'll say it's going to be competitive, though. I'll say round 3. I'll say this is going to be a good fight back and forth.
I'm a big fan of Brendan Allen for sure. Like I said, I think he flies under the radar. Obviously, Muniz does as well. This is 2 excellent grapplers, so I bet that we get a stand-up fight between them. And in that case, I'm going to go with Allen because I think he's slightly more well-rounded. I think he'll be able to do well on the feet, but I don't think we get a finish. I think their grappling nullifies each other and we get a stand-up fight, and I see Allen winning that by decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good fight either way. This is definitely one of those picks.
I hope we see a lot of grappling because that it will be the highest level, scrambling, all that we normally see at flyweight. We'll see that with these. I believe they're middleweights or light heavyweights. So I'm looking forward to that one. So let's get into middleweights. Yep. Okay. Let's get into the main event.
Which
Nikita,
is
light heavyweight. Yeah. Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann.
Yeah. I mean, this one, a second here, get my notes here. This is interesting. Krylov is 29-9. He's got 12 KOs and 15 subs. 2 decisions, and he's on a 2-fight win streak. So out of 29 fights, this guy's only got a decision twice. Yep. So that's pretty impressive. And he's fought at heavyweight, light heavyweight. Krylov is he's that guy. He's that guy that is always ready to fight. Ryan Spann, 21-7, 6 KOs, 12 subs, 3 decisions. As you can tell, Ryan Spann also doesn't really like to go to decision. This is an interesting fight. Spann's got a win. He's coming off a great KO over Dominic Reyes. Before that, he had a choke over Kudaraba. He lost to Anthony Smith with a choke, but Anthony Smith has so much more experience than him. He had a win over that before that over Misha Serkinov. He had a KO loss to Johnny Walker in a fight that he had Walker on the ropes as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Back and forth. Before that, a split decision over Sam Alvey, but I feel like he's such a different fighter since that fight. This is a good test for Ryan Spann. I say that because I feel like Krylov is where he's at in his career. He's a really game fighter he can beat a lot of the guys, but I don't think he's like the top guys. But then again, light heavyweight division seems like a really wide open division these days too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go with Spann. Coming off that big KO over Reyes, I say he's got a little momentum going. I'll say it's a KO too because I think Krylov's just gonna push that action, and they'll go back and forth. And I'll say Spann gets it done by round 2. I will say this: if Spann does not finish Krylov early, though, I think Krylov wins the decision. I think with his experience, he's the type of fighter that will know how to get it done as this fight goes later.
Yeah, these two have very similar skill sets. In the fighting video game community, we would call this mirror match. So I think it could go either way, but I'm going to give Krylov the slightest of edges just based on his strength of schedule. Like you said, he's been around for a long time. So I think he's going to get a decision. I do think we might get a back and forth fight, but I think Krylov gets the decision win.
All right. Well, and like I said, I definitely think that's a real strong possibility if this fight doesn't end early. But hats off to Ryan Spann. He's a good young fighter, and I think this division needs more of that too. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Why don't we hit him with what's coming up one more time?
All right. March 4th, huge UFC 285 heavyweight title on the line. John Jones versus Cyril Gane. Then March 11th, UFC Fight Night, Jan versus Dvalishvili, great bantamweight matchup. And then March 18th, UFC 286, Edwards versus Usman 3 for the welterweight belt.
A lot of great fights coming up. Excited. And that Edwards-Usman fight, that's going to be in the UK as well, right?
I believe so. So that'll be huge. I'm very excited. Like, just for the walkout, I think that's going to be awesome.
That should be good. All right, fans. Look forward to the fights this weekend. Jake Paul, Tommy Fury also out there too. I'm sure that's going to be a circus as we get closer. So be interesting to see what we're talking about besides Jones and Gane next week. But in the meantime, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the fights.